Joined by the Daily Telegraph's parliamentary sketch writer, Madeline Grant. Morning to you, Madeline.
Morning.
Thanks for giving up your Saturday to be with us to go through these. Let's take a look at some of the front pages. Start with the Daily Telegraph, a great picture of Jimmy Anderson, who is now Sir Jimmy.
Sir Jimmy,
of course.
yes.
But we're going to talk about the main story in the Duke of Sussex.
Yes. So, you know, there's this ongoing court case over the Duke of Sussex and questions about the security or the lack of security that he's complaining about. And it really does seem to have become like unbelievably torrid and personal and very kind of wounded. Like, I almost feel reading these sorts of stories that I'm intruding on a very private family trauma. The Duke has said that he believes his police protection was withdrawn in an effort to prevent him and his wife from moving abroad to start a new life together. It was a kind of means to entrap them. Now, I think that is quite debatable, really, given the fact that this is essentially the protocol that is followed for almost no members of the royal family, apart from literally the King, the Queen, the Prince of Wales, his wife and their kids get that kind of protection that Prince Harry was demanding. Princess Anne doesn't get it, and she is a working royal, and she actually was kidnapped in the 70s. But nevertheless, it shows, I don't know, I think the extent to which the Duke of Sussex is in a very unhappy place, and potentially, it sounds almost to me a little paranoid, really, but you can understand why he would feel like that, given the awful relationship that he's had with the press and, you know, of course, what happened to his late mother. Yeah,
I mean, you're right about the family trauma when you read these stories. I think it's right as well that he didn't actually use the word trap that is reported in some of the headlines, but he does definitely feels...
He definitely says words to that effect without using that precise word himself.
So, as you say, it's a really, very difficult time for all of those guys involved in that. But let's move on to something that is much happier, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
No, sorry. I was moving on to the Puppy Prozac. There's something that I missed off my list, which is this one here, The Express.
I was going to say.
No, which is a story that I've read a couple of times since it broke. Talk us through this, and then we'll have a chat off the back as to what is going on here.
I mean, I think we're both a bit dumbfounded by this story, aren't we?
When I saw the headline, I was like, why?
It's actually quite astonishing. There's a mother... It sounds to me like there's a family where the kids were staying perhaps with the father, and maybe the parents are separated. The kids' iPads, the mum confiscates the iPads so that the kids can concentrate on homework. And then I guess somebody reports to the police that they have been stolen. And a bunch of police officers, now this bit feels quite familiar, a bunch of police officers turn up and basically arrest the woman and bring her into for questioning for several hours.
She was held for hours. This is the thing that's so
unbelievable.
Right?
I mean, what I find quite astonishing is that there's a very common story with the police at the moment, that there seems to be a real case of underreaction when people get their bikes nicked, you know, crime that they would call minor but is actually highly significant and greatly traumatic to many people. They seem to do nothing. But then there's this massive overreach in certain cases such as this. Yeah,
we do see this quite often. I mean, as we say, we're not entirely sure what's going on in the whole family dynamic, but the idea of a woman being held for many, many hours for this is fascinating. And of course, as I say, this is another headline for this story. I read it a couple of days ago, so I think more will probably...
A lot of people would say, you know, where is zeal when I report my phone missing and I'm told that, you know, within a couple of hours or whatever, that the case is closed and that there's nothing more they can do, you know?
Yeah. It is
low-hanging fruit is the phrase I would use.
I won't say anything about the number of bikes that I've had pinched recently either, which has been very, very upsetting. But this is the one we're here to cheer us up, which has got a great picture of a puppy, but I'm not sure I'm keen down with the idea of them taking medication. But talk us through the story.
Well, I actually think, although it's cute, it's also quite a sad story. There's a surge in the number of dog owners who are medicating their dogs. Puppy Prozac. I don't know, I assume it's not actual Prozac, but something that gets the effect of Prozac on dog.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I think, it speaks to something quite sad. The article talks about how there's been a general mollycoddling of pets, that people want to treat their pets a bit like their children. So if they do ordinary dog behaviour, there's an effort to kind of medicalise, which is crazy, isn't it? But there's also a sad thing, which is that a lot of people got dogs during lockdown, either people who are quite inexperienced with dogs and didn't know how to look after them and the responsibilities that entails, but also people who have now returned to work and they were working at home and now they're back in the office. So the dog is getting terrible separation anxiety because they had, their owner on tap for a couple of years or more.
But you're right about medicalising. I mean, medicating pets seems to me extraordinary if it's not a serious condition that they need to be given the pills for. And it's fluoxetine. I probably said that wrong, but it's SSRI. Anyone who's taken these medications knows that is the drug that's given if you are depressed.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's concerning.
It is indeed. I mean, it's sort of happening across the board, and now it's even got to the pets.
Right. Well,
very depressing.
I'll take it for a walk. I hope the puppy feels better, and the owners too, potentially. All right. What's this in the sun? I can see Jeremy Clarkson, I can see a snail, and I can see a brain on a plate.
OK. So
what's going on?
This is some of the interesting culinary choices at Jeremy Clarkson's pub that he opened recently. And this includes snail caviar, crispy squirrel on the menu.
What?
Now, I've never tried squirrel before, but I'm quite pro squirrel because I just don't like the fact that the red squirrels are driven to extinction. I mean, why can't we all get along, you know? So there's that element. But snail caviar, that sounds a bit like Heston Blumenthal kind of stuff, doesn't it? I would have assumed that if Jeremy Clarkson opened a pub, it would be a bit more kind of rough and ready. But
yeah, earthy,
I guess it is in the Cotswolds,
steak and chips and stuff. So... I mean, that sounds gross. I've got to be honest. I mean, sorry, Jess, but like,
not a fan.
I'm not going to be trying to get a table at, what's it called? Farmer's Dog.
Farmer's Dog.
All right, well, that's, yeah, gross. Anyway, this is another story that I read in the Eye about huge changes they're reporting as the way we're going to travel through airports.
Yes, which is pretty exciting, actually, and I think it will make a big difference to the way that we travel. There is a scheme being, I think, considered at the moment in which airline passengers would be able to basically complete their check-in and do their the entirety of their flight without showing a passport or a boarding pass. So there would be like a new kind of single pass that you'd have on your phone that would basically do all of that.
So as soon as you get in, I think they scan your face and you're already all in the system. So you only go to check in if you're going to drop a bag. I mean, it's going to change.
Totally.
Maybe get rid of some of those queues.
Oh yeah, I would hope so. But the trouble is, I find at airports it's remarkable how many times you have to show these things. Yeah. I actually don't believe that a lot of these airports would be like, right, it's fine, you're in, because it's like you show it to get into the waiting area to get on the plane, and then they're like, oh, I want to see it again. You're like, but how did I get past this? I
wouldn't be able to get through that gate without showing.
Yeah, unless I was like the little boy from Love Actually or something. Like, I wouldn't have been able to get here, but. Then they want passports, sometimes boarding pass. I think it'll take a long time for that level of like bureaucracy.
I think you're right about that. But when it eventually comes in, in 50 years?
Yeah,
it'll be great.
Be great then.
Lovely to see you this morning. Thanks very much. Have a great rest of your day, and do stay with us. We're going to have plenty more news after this short break.
Jubilation in the streets,